There.
Okay, so now we're changing gears a little bit, and we're talking about another topic. So this session is called Reducing the Gender Gap. Now, part of your ESG, or that S in ESG, social, women, this is a big topic because we have a gender protection gap, and I'm going to tell you a bit about that. So my presentation to you today, I've got half an hour and I've got quite a lot to pack into it. So I'm just going to give you some signposts. I'm first going to tell you about why we think it's important to target women. Then I'm going to be telling you about the challenges of targeting women with inclusive insurance. And then lastly, I'm going to give you two very quick case studies on some examples of where insurers have done well. Actually, the first one is an example of an insurer that's done particularly well in the space. And the second case study is more of a concept, but I think it's important for you to hear. And then I will tell you about our community of practice. Okay, so I think sometimes, the sort of gender equality thing gets thrown in there as a footnote and people don't necessarily think through why this is important. But we have this gender protection gap. We know that from the statistics we do have that although both men and women around the globe don't, we've got a long way to go with people using insurance, but when we look at the data that we do have, there is also a gap. Less women are using insurance than men. And we know that insurance can provide protection and improve productivity. So it's really important that men and women have an equal chance at using it. And we also know that when women have access to finance and access to insurance, it can also benefit the household. Women tend to invest more in families and the household. So actually, it benefits everybody in the end. We also know from research done by IFC that there is a huge business opportunity as well. They did some research and they quoted that there's a $1.7 trillion opportunity by 2030 if you can get more women to use insurance by 2030, with half of this coming from the emerging world. So I thought just to show you what we're talking about, I'm going to play you a quick video. So Eunice is going to put it on. That just really explains, what the issues, like some of these issues, what they are. And it's a social experiment, which is interesting.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to help us conduct this experiment today.
We were of different ages. We were made to stand in a line.
Now, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. If your answer is a yes, step forward. If it's a no, please step back. Here goes. Ready? Did you learn how to ride a bicycle before the age of 10? Did you learn music in school? Did you take any lessons in sports? And no, video games are not a sport, even if it has the word game in it. Did you learn how to iron your clothes while still in school? Take a step forward. If not, take a step back. If you can make tea or breakfast, not just for yourselves, please step forward. If not, take a step back.
In the beginning, I think the questions were more general. People were still going forward and backward. Questions like, it was funny to see the cooking question. There were a lot of men who went ahead and there were women who were going behind.
Do you usually make all the household bill payments yourself? Do you know the circle rate in your area? Do you know the price of gold today? Do you know the exact breakup of your salary?
As the questions unfolded, the stark difference came out visibly.
Do you know the details of the financial documents you're asked to sign? Have you bought a vehicle in your own name without consulting anybody? Have you bought insurance policies unassisted? Do you watch or follow the budget?
You think you're doing okay, but then you're like, okay, these are kind of important things that I don't look at.
Do you manage your own finances and earnings unassisted? Do you know how to invest in mutual funds? Do you know the difference between a mutual fund and an SIP? Do you make the investments for your family members or your spouse? Do you file your own income tax return? Now, everyone who's in front, could you please turn around and look behind you? Initially, when you guys started moving, there wasn't such a big gap. My question is, when did this gap start to occur?
The minute the questions became about managing money, the gap between men and women became very clear and evident.
Women handling certain responsibilities regarding their own life, which were always passed on to someone else in the family or the men.
There was a slight unfairness I realized at that time. But at that point, it seemed normal.
I was upset. I wanted to be at the front of the line. It's like, why don't I know this? Why am I not confident enough to say, yes, I am able to understand this? It was quite an eye opener for me because I always depended on the men of the family to take care of my investments and, plan my future.
I felt that obviously men are more into it than women. So eventually, I did expect the gap to be there.
Over the years growing up, there were certain very traditionally masculine tropes that were assigned for him and certain traditionally feminine tropes that were assigned for me.
For women, it's practically debarred to learn to know and to focus on money.
I wish I had known from the beginning of my childhood and kind of thought about that I would be doing so much better.
Just actionable measures is what we want, really.
So hopefully you found that interesting. Did anyone find that surprising? No. I mean, we've got a hugely diverse group here. I mean, would this be similar in your countries, do you think, if you had to do that social experiment? Yeah. And I mean, these guys are probably not like the lowest income. I've lost my clicker. Oh, there it is. So, I think, yeah, that video for me really kind of shows you how there is this gap that's invisible. Most people kind of, like I said, it goes at the footnote and it's not really maybe taken that seriously, but it is there. So again, like when you're looking at maybe lower income populations, a lot of women also work disproportionately in the informal economy, and they work in more precarious work. So these are just some other challenges that we've picked up in serving the women's insurance market. As we saw in that video, perhaps women are less financially literate. Maybe they're less confident when it comes to talking about issues of money. They own less land, they have fewer assets, and all of these things contribute to women not being able to access and use insurance as much. There also is this issue of lack of IDs. So there's a statistic from Global FinTech's data in 2020 that in sub-Saharan Africa, women are 9% less likely to actually own an ID, which you would need when you're accessing financial services. And then also there's this problem with not having access to mobile phones. So again, some statistics. So globally, women are 8% less likely to have a phone and 20% less likely to be able to access the internet. And those are stats from 2020. And then also on the supply side, insurers are maybe not aware of this opportunity that they have. This $1.7 trillion opportunity that I mentioned, it's something that we're trying to get out there, but insurers don't necessarily know that if they target women with their insurance and they look at insurance from a woman's perspective, that this opportunity is there. So this is a problem of having a lack of an overall strategy. Then there are also issues with how they sell insurance. So, ideally you would have a sales force that has gender sensitive training, and also a mix of men and women who are selling the insurance, because what we find in some countries that women don't really like speaking to men they don't know, and culturally this can be a problem. So having a female sales force is also really important. And then another key challenge is the lack of data. So when we work with insurers on this topic, we find it really surprising that a lot of insurers don't have gender as a field. They don't disaggregate their data by male and female. And if you're going to do any kind of analysis, you have to have that as a field. So we're trying to advocate for more and more insurers to keep, I mean, it's so surprising, you know, thinking about the work that I've done in the past, that gender would be missing, but it is missing in a lot of cases. And also there's this landscape study that's done on inclusive insurance, and we find that half of the respondents for the microinsurance network, or more than half of them, also experience not having data that's been disaggregated. Okay, so I think I've gone the wrong way. Hang on. Okay, so very briefly, this is the first case study that I would like to share with you. So this is an insurer in South Africa, another South African example. This insurer has done incredibly well to think through how to serve the women's market. And they're called First for Women. They're in the they launched in 2004, and they're in the top 3 insurers in South Africa. And they've really thought about how to serve the women's market. They have a range of insurance solutions that I think the key one was motor insurance, but you'll see on one of the slides, I've kind of laid out the different types of cover that they have. And it's more than just insurance. They really have thought through the social element of, you know, how they can really be there for women at the points where they might face these risks. So they are products for women, designed by women, and they have what really makes them stand out is that they have these value-added services priced into the product that add an immense amount of value to the product. Statistically, they're in a lucky position in South Africa, which I don't think would work in the UK, because in the UK you're not allowed to price, for example, motor insurance. You can't rate by gender, but in South Africa you can. So I mean, many years ago you had Sheila's Wheels in the UK that you know, you could buy insurance for women, and you could benefit from the fact that women drove a bit more carefully, and you know, when they had accidents, they didn't crash them quite as badly because they weren't going quite as fast. So actually women are a lower risk, and in South Africa the insurers can benefit from that. So IFC again did some statistics, and they reckon that the women's insurance market is worth 12 billion rand. Or it could be worth around 12 billion rand, but it's not quite penetrated. So they've done a lot of market research first for women. And one of the things they found when they did this research, asking women what they wanted out of insurance, safety came up as like the #1 issue. So they found out that from a survey of over 6,000 women, that 95% of women generally feel unsafe all the time. 91% felt unsafe while driving, and 67% felt unsafe being alone at home. And I come from South Africa, so I completely relate to these statistics. What came out of the research was that women actually respond very differently to the sort of marketing messaging, and also have different budgets, and they value different things. So first of all, women want to be safe, and they want to feel safe. They also, in terms of the relationships, they like to build relationships over time. And once they become customers, they tend to be very loyal. And I think you see this in the world of microfinance as well. They respond very well to word of mouth marketing. They resonate with communication that's all around similarities, affiliation, and win-win. But they do not respond well to messages based on gloating and boasting and bragging. So those kind of messages in trying to get people interested in insurance didn't work well with these South African women. Women also tended to ask a lot more questions than men before they made that purchase. They identified a good product. If they had a good experience with buying the product, they would see it as a good product. Interestingly enough, that when they bought the product and when they had to make a claim, they preferred dealing with women. But when it came to actually having assistance for emergency, they preferred dealing with men. So this is very briefly what their product looks like. So they offer, it's mostly comprehensive vehicle insurance, but they also have covers for home content. Then there's a whole lot of benefits there that are related to cars. They have female dreaded disease cover, which is your cancers and dreaded diseases like chronic disease conditions. There's also some life insurance and funeral cover and business insurance bundled in there. So it's quite a comprehensive product that they have. And then they have this thing called Guardian Angels on Command, I think this is. And this is where the safety element comes in. So built into their insurance, they also have these value-added services. So for example, if you break down side of the road, you can have 24/7, I'll just go to the next slide. You can have, there's an app that somebody will come and find you very quickly and will wait with you or even drive you home while your car is being towed. This is because women do not like being left on the side of the road late at night, or actually any time of the day. So within the insurance, you have this guardian angel on call, and it'll help you get home safely. They also have things like, let's see, yeah. So they have a panic button. So I don't know if that's something you know about. So on the app, I mean, it comes from this old-fashioned thing where security companies would give you a panic button in your home, and then you would have these buttons around the house, and if you pressed it, the security company would come. Same kind of idea, except it's on your phone. Then they also have so trip monitoring. You can turn that on. I've talked about the roadside assistance. They've integrated into Waze. You know Waze, the road navigation system. So on your Waze, there will be certain areas that are not safe for you to drive, and they have little safety shields. So within the app, it's actually added safety shields onto the route that you might take home when driving. Another one of the value-added services is that if you have with their home insurance, if you need to have a plumber or an electrician, it comes from a pre-vetted list of people who are traceable. So you're not letting a complete stranger into your home. So they've really thought through the options. How much time do I have, Corinna? How much time do I have left? Okay, good. All right. So very quickly, case study 2, which I wanted to share with you. This is more of a concept, but I thought it would be interesting for you because given that you maybe are looking for things to research, I'm not sure where you are in your studies. This is a concept that I think it's very interesting. It's very interesting to the ILO, and I thought it might be interesting for you. So as you know, with climate change, we have a problem with heat, extreme heat. We've even seen, Aparna was showing me the news today that I think around over 500 people died in Mecca in trying with pilgrimage with extreme temperatures of over 50 degrees. So I mean, we're seeing more and more of this in the news. And so one of the things that, this is a product that I'm going to tell you about, which is about heat insurance in India. So we know that heat can kill. It can also cause severe health problems, rashes, burns, chronic heart and kidney disease. And what we also know is that low-income women who spend a lot of time outside working in the informal sector are particularly vulnerable to heat stress. So this product was a piloted product where we had three different organizations that came together. Vima Siwa, which is the Self-Employed Women's Association. It's a 50-year-old trade union in India with around 3 million members. A lot of their members work outdoors and are exposed to extreme heat. I'll give you an example on the next slide. But to help with this problem of heat stress, Blue Marble helped them design a product with the help of Arched Rock Foundation to design a product that would help incentivize women to seek shelter during times of extreme heat, and also to reimburse women for lost wages. So what does this product look like? It's a parametric insurance product, and how it works is that if there is extreme heat for a period of 3 days continuously, it triggers the insurance that will then pay the woman for the lost wages. At the same time, they've set up like sort of tents where women could go and like hang out in the shade and also get some water. because so the type of women, the type of work, it might be useful for me to also say, the type of work that these women are doing is extremely dangerous. So the picture on the slide is showing you waste pickers. So there are people who earn a living by going through garbage and finding things that can be recycled and taking this to centers where they can get money for the things that they're picking out of the rubbish. And you can imagine this is extremely dangerous work at the best of times. But now when you add extreme heat to it, it's extremely bad for your health. So this, these are members of the union. So they picked 7 different occupations to cover: waste pickers, salt pan workers, street vendors, and home-based workers. And in the pilot, they focused on Gujarat in India and covered 21,000 people. And the Arched Rock Foundation helped pay the premium because it really was just a pilot and an experiment. And the idea was that during the heat period, the product could pay out a couple of times. So you can already start imagining, like if you were to try and quantify, like from a product design, you need a lot of statistics to understand weather patterns, to understand how often this might happen, where to set the premium. The people are, that we're trying to cover here in this example are earning around $3 a day. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting product. So the results of this is that in 2023, I don't know if it was caused by not having the right parameters, but they didn't actually have any payouts because they didn't hit the 3-day high heat in a row. But they found that actually just even by having this product, members of the union were more educated about heat issues and how to look after themselves during periods of high temperatures. And this education is also really important for the future. So what they plan to do with this product is they're going to make adjustments. They're still gathering lessons on what worked well and what didn't work well. And they are hoping to expand, once they have the product right, expand it to the 3 million members across India. However, I would say that the main issue with this product is actually who pays for it and how to reach scale. So I think they're a little bit away from actually making it work, but conceptually it's a really good idea. And similar innovations with I think climate change related issues are needed. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. Questions? If there are any.
Yeah. Yes, it's the last part, the heats.
Yeah, I know in some countries you have rains and then people in the market and you are flooding and they will not be able to go to in the market.
Right.
Have you thought of something close?
Yeah, I mean, flood insurance is something that is out there already and being experimented with for sure. It's a bit better known than maybe this heat insurance idea, which is quite novel, but yeah, absolutely flood insurance. I mean, I can't think of actually, can you guys, Aparna, I don't know if you can think of a flood product that's worked well. I mean, I can think in Ghana, they talk about with the government, they've got some flood products, but on a private scale, it's definitely been thought about, but I don't know if there are any good examples of where it has worked well. Let me come back to you on that one. But yeah, I've read about it as a and for farmers for sure, agricultural insurance will pay out on floods and drought. Yeah, for market workers, yeah. No, it's a good question. Yes.
Hi, thank you very much for the talk. So I was just wondering, I mean, when you were sort of quantifying the number of women with insurance, were you guys also considering the fact that, I mean, sometimes there's quite a few insurance products that sort of have a main member and then sort of subsidiary members as well. And I think just given that, I mean, sort of based on the older generation, it was more common for a man to essentially sort of kind of be the breadwinner classically, right? So I feel like many of those policies and a lot of the data might still have them as the main member, maybe quantifying I don't know, I just have a feeling maybe there's actually more women that still have insurance, but sort of not directly under sort of a branch of a main member. Have you guys sort of looked at that as well? I don't know if that's something worthwhile considering, but yeah.
Yeah, it might well be the case that we just don't know because a lot of data is missing. So when we've done our work, actually, I do want to tell you a bit about this community of practice. So we work with, every year we have a batch of insurers that we work with, and we ask them at the beginning, can you please give us your gender disaggregated data on who are you covering? And many of them can't do this. And then we say, but why can't you do this? And they say, well, we go through aggregators, we go through banks, and we go through other, if it's motor insurance, sometimes we'll go through like the company that rents out the fleet. They don't tell us the gender of the people taking that insurance out. So, there was just so much data missing. I mean, I think in some cases you might be able to get the name of the dependent and the children, and yeah, you can work it out. But it does seem, and you can see from that video, that when it comes to business insurance, motor insurance, women are not using it as much as men. How much, we don't really know.
Sorry, just one more. So, I mean, is it possible to also maybe look at sort of, because I have a feeling that, I mean, sort of given older or sort of more legacy policies, if you have to sort of plot the number of women that have started to get insurance, I would still anticipate that it would have increased like over the past 50 years as opposed to that. I mean, that's my feeling. I feel like it probably is increasing. So I'm just interested in the trend over the period of time. Have you guys considered that by any chance?
We haven't had
Okay.
trying to get it, but
Okay.
I mean, it's,
Okay.
yeah, the data
Okay.
is just not
Yeah.
there. Even the microinsurance network, who are the biggest collectors of data on inclusive insurance, haven't been able to get that data. And I would say during the pandemic, there was anecdotal evidence that women stopped using insurance and financial services. So actually the pandemic put us back, but now, maybe there's been some catch up. Okay, yes, okay. Thank you, Noah.
Lida, very interesting, this parametric insurance and the heat wave insurance. So a few years ago, it turns out that the mathematics behind that problem is actually really non-trivial. And for that reason, I got a PhD student really excited, and we worked out how to calculate the probability of heat waves occurring, where the heat wave is determined as, you say 3 consecutive days. In certain countries, it's 5 consecutive days, and you need to fix the threshold. And our motivation was, in fact, when a heat wave strikes a metropolitan area, say Tokyo, it has huge financial consequences because a raft of emergency services are activated. And predicting how likely such an event is very important to be prepared and to also understand not only what the financial costs will be, but the preparedness of being actually able to deploy immediately, whatever it is, more beds in hospitals, advisory for people to stay inside, and so on, so on, so on. So I am actually very intrigued to see that exactly the same idea is now used at a individual level in a place like India. But I'm supposing also in other places where, heat is becoming a recurrent problem. And I assume that the pricing of those products will heavily depend exactly on the ability of calculating the probability of the event occurring, because that will determine the premium.
I mean, excuse the awful pun, but it is a hot topic at the moment. I think a few people are dabbling in this at the moment, but it's absolutely applicable at the inclusive insurance level. But yeah, we should chat more. Any other?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just pays the insurers a part of that membership fee. So that's how it covers the cost, and because it covers a lot of people, kind of gets a better price. Thank you. Yes.
And I
Anna.
think this particular product is quite clever because it's not just paying you for loss, it's actually encouraging almost loss of income, in a way preventing kind of other risks from happening. So it could even be seen as a preventive measure or service that, a health insurer might also be able to add on as part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
portfolio.
Yeah, it's win-win. Any other
Yeah, I wanted to
questions?
ask a question actually.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Tell us.
I was just wondering actually whether the extreme heat, like insurance, is insurance the right product in the sense that you said the idea is good, but I think that the good part is that we are reimbursing women who are working usually under difficult conditions. So insurance means that you have some sort of disposable income. So first you have to question whether these people have disposable income, and if they have disposable income, do they want to invest it in an insurance? Or maybe actually, is there like a better product? Like Corina told me about something like social bonds, so issued by the government, where the government says that if women actually have health problems because of this, then this is money that the country is losing in terms of GDP. So we want to invest on it by issuing some bonds. And then when something happens, because even if I have insurance actually against the heat, this is for me just more money because I would still work under the heat because I know people actually that are in this sort of conditions. I will receive actually the reimbursements by the insurance, but I will still go work in the heat, so I have double the income.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually the truth, because I spoke to the lady who helped with designing and running this project. She said, like, it's really hard to incentivize this woman to not work. Even if it's really hard, it's like, really hard to get them under the tents. But at least their incentive is there. And that's what this pilot is about. It's about seeing how it works. Does it work? What do they need to change to make it work? And is insurance the right tool? Absolutely. That's a good question. I mean, could it be a social protection thing where the government is, there are ways that this could probably be solved. But yeah, this is what we're experimenting with at the moment. Craig, no, you don't want to say. Okay, so I don't know if there is any other question. But yeah, actually, one thing that I forgot to mention, I don't know if any of you come from an insurance company online or are doing studies for an insurer, but yeah, we have this community of practice where we work with insurers on designing better products for women and also how to make insurers better employers of women. So if you do know of any insurers that have this particular focus, please do let me know. Thank you.
Our last speaker for this session is my dear friend, Severin. So when I started my sabbatical in Geneva, the first